I'm as disoriented as you are.
What's it like looking back on the show 20 years later?
It's better than I remember, actually. I think it aged very, very well. Very happy with it. I love the dynamic still of the Bruce and Terry relationship. With the original Batman, you had a master and an apprentice in the form of Batman and Robin. With this one, you had two guys who were kind of, each of them had limitations, and the other took care of that limitation. So I think the dynamic is real solid. I think it lasts really well.
Were there any stories that you remember that you were hoping to tell through any episodes you wish you could have written?
That I didn't write?
Yeah, that you didn't get to write the show only lasted 6 seasons.
Well, I think the ultimate episode would have been one in which Bruce died. And you make Terry the full hero.
Yeah.
Because when you're dealing with any master-apprentice kind of a thing, the normal flow of life is that the master eventually dies, the apprentice takes over, and he'll either be as good as, or better than, or possibly worse than the master. So that was never told.
Was that ever on the roadmap, or is it just an idea that you have?
We've never talked about that. The series, unfortunately, just ended.
Series can always come back. Especially nowadays, all these shows are coming back. So
I actually have a suggestion for you. There is a film director named Boaz Yakin who directed Remember the Titans and others. Boaz came to Alan Burnett and Paul Dini and said, I've got a great idea. Why don't we do a Batman Beyond live-action feature? So Alan and Paul wrote either a treatment or a script for a Batman Beyond live-action feature. Warner's is real serious about it. I heard a rumor that they were even talking to Paul Newman at the time to be the elderly Bruce Wayne, but it never got made. However, that outline is still available and kicking around. Warner Brothers owns it, so maybe they could do it as maybe an animated feature.
There was an episode where we kind of see the Justice League in the future. Superman's
You mean the call? Are you referring to the call?
Yeah.
I think I wrote the drafts of that. I'm not sure.
Do you know if there was ever an opportunity to maybe bring in other characters from the Justice League, or maybe other DC characters to see like what they're doing now, or anything like that?
Didn't we bring in an older Static Shock?
Yeah, there was that. But beyond those episodes, beyond the characters that showed up in the series.
I don't know of any plans to. While we were on Batman Beyond, I don't have any plans to do that. And then, of course, after Batman Beyond, there was kind of a hiatus, and then came Justice League. And at which time, there were so many Justice League heroes that we were kind of satiated.
Is there an episode that you've written that you favor in the Batman Beyond series?
There are a couple. I mean, you always favor the more handicapped children, I guess. I liked April Moon a lot because it was weird and offbeat. I also loved writing for the character of Shriek. Shriek was designed by Glen Murakami. Basically, he said, here's a drawing. This guy has something to do with sound. Figure it out. So we sat around and talked a lot about it. And then I thought, you know what, it's sound. And as a writer, and a guy who doesn't draw at all, I thought, no matter what I can envision, these artists, these animators can do better. But what about sound? We've never challenged them with sound. And if you remember that first one, there's a point where the sound goes completely blank. Just nothing on the soundtrack. It's really startling, and I thought they did a great job in bringing that to life.
I think that villain was one of the best villains in that particular series. And then they brought him back, and he was completely deaf. And do you think that? How do you think that the old Batman would have fared against Shriek versus?
probably he probably would have taken him down a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently. My favorite episode, again going with sound, was the one called Babel, the Shriek, where we're using double talk. Because Tower Babel, you can't understand what the person's saying. So what I did in the very first draft of it was I said, okay, have the actor just improvise some blah 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 stuff. So Andrea, our director, says, no, you can't do that. She asked me to write word for word what the double talk would be. Every word of gibberish I had to literally write. But having been a TV writer for a long time, I've become very good at writing gibberish. So then, I gave her the script, and there's lines like, he's figured out a way to adapt the Klimis Bay Kohama. And it's just, the whole script's like that. And then Andrea said, okay, fine, you're still not done though. What you have to do now is go back to the gibberish and translate it. Because when the actors are speaking the gibberish, they're still going to have emotion. So I wrote gibberish and then I translated it. So it was a unique experience, and it's only ever happened on Batman.
They came out pretty great.
It's always been fun. I mean, all the episodes came out very well. This is a trouble-free show, which you never hear about. So I said, well, we started off with these writers, we had to fire them, and then we got rid of the producers, then we recast it. Nothing like that. It's like, hey, you guys, can we do one with the younger Batman? And how about this? And yep. And then boom, it was just like that. Very, very smooth, and it's a very rare experience. So I was grateful to have had it.
Okay, so in the Justice League episode where you see Terry McGinnis older, and then there's like a big reveal that he's kind of the son of Batman. Was that always in the cards, or was that...
You mean when we were doing Batman Beyond?
Yeah, when you were doing Batman Beyond?
No, of course not. That was all figured out later, much later. Years later, probably 5 years later.
Will Friedle earlier on the panel said that this was his first animated work he ever did. Over the course,
you wouldn't have known. He fell in it very, very gracefully and very easily.
Absolutely. But over time, did he kind of develop strengths that you would write to, or like a little quips you would make, or anything that the writing kind of formatted around his performance?
If I say no, I don't mean to denigrate his talent. What he was, though, is completely versatile, and as a writer, I felt like I could write anything for him.
Were the recording sessions like they were on Batman the Animated Series with everyone in the same room?
Not always. If we were lucky, they'd all be in the same room. If we were unlucky, as we were on one episode, which I probably shouldn't mention, neither of the stars were in the room. The advantage of having the two stars in the room is they've been doing the show a lot. They know the tone of the show. And the disadvantage of having these people, these stars that they were talking about, the Emmy winners, the Oscar winners, whoever, is they may not know what the show is like at all. All they know is, it's a Batman cartoon, so I'm going to be cartoony. And we had one where both Will and Kevin were unavailable. So it was without them, and there was no leadership on the part of the cast. And it was just a disaster because the lead actor, the lead guest actor, was playing it as an utter and total cartoon. And what happened was that, I'm famous for this remark. I leaned over to either Bruce or Andrea during the recording session. I said, am I that bad of a writer? Because if you're just a little off key, you can be a great songwriter, but if the person who's singing it's just even that much off key, it just sounds, it's like, fingernails on the chalkboard, which this episode was, and then Andrea had to go back and re-record every single line. Because usually it's recorded like a radio show. But in this particular case, she had to go back, do it this way, do it. It was terrible.
Same actor?
Well, no, actually, no. It was the one actor who was the kind of lead guest. But you had the other actors kind of following him, down that hole. And
Well, I meant, did the same actor come back and have to re-record?
no, the re-recording happened that day.
Okay, with the same
He
actor.
went right through it. It was awful.
Sorry, I wasn't clear on the question.
So he went right through it. It was awful. And then Andrea just sat with him and in recording with him, just try this line again. No, okay, fine. Now we're going to do that line again. And that line and that line. And then, as always, it turns out okay.
So
But it took a long time.
the Batman Beyond comics have come back. Have you ever been approached, or have you approached them on writing anything? Do you have any desire?
No, I'm writing comic books now, but not Batman.
What are you writing?
I'm glad you asked. I'm writing for two different companies. One you could look up on your phones now. It's called Saudi Girls Revolution. It's not quite as political as it sounds. It's a company based in Europe and the Middle East. And they have one comic book has come out, and we're working on a whole bunch more. And as I said, it sounds political. Saudi Arabia, girls, and revolution, but it's set in the future, and hopefully no one will be offended.
Now, you said that there was like a Batman Beyond movie that still has the option.
It was a script that basically Warner Brothers paid Alan, Paul, and Boaz Yakin to either write the script or a detailed treatment.
Now, if Warner Bros. Came to you and said, "Hey, you have history with this cartoon," and if they offered you to write the script, would you take that offer?
Yeah, I would, but I mean, why would they offer it to me when Alan and Paul are still
I
around?
don't say hypothetical, you know.
I'm basically speaking as someone who might view it in the future, and I would be very happy if Warner Brothers somehow found a way to produce
Yeah,
it.
if they finally did something like that, yeah, that'd be great.
It would be, because I don't really know the story.
Oh, okay.
The rumor I heard was that it was R-rated. It would have been R-rated, probably for violence.
Yeah.
And Warner's at that time, things have changed since then, but at that time Warner's did not want to do an R-rated superhero movie.
The show, did you write any of the episodes that brought back some of the classic villains?
I don't remember.
They brought back
which
Mr. Freeze.
Oh yeah. I think
Brought back.
I don't think I
Brought back
wrote.
Bane at one point.
Who else?
They brought back Bane.
There was a episode
No, I didn't
with
write
Bane
for
with
Bane.
the slappers.
Mr. Freeze, I think I helped rewrite that one. I think.
Ra's al Ghul was in the
That was Paul Dini's. I remember Paul Dini wrote that one. Have we run out of questions here? Can I start asking you guys questions?
Speaking of villains, what was the biggest challenge when coming up with new villains for a young Batman?
I never felt challenged because, as I said, the artists, they had great ideas. There was James Tucker had one that he told Alan. And Alan had brought me into the office. James had this idea, a man who is an agent for villains, an agent for supervillains. And as soon as Alan said that, I thought, that sounds terrible. I mean, really campy, really silly. And Alan said, he doesn't have to be an agent. He can be a doctor. And as soon as he said doctor, I went, okay, now we're talking. And that's what became April Moon. And I mean, almost between the time I walked back to my office, it was the EC Comics thing where the guy who had cheated, had cheated with your wife, ends up on your operating table and you're the doctor. I mean, that happened that fast. So again, it wouldn't have happened had it not been for James Tucker, tossing the idea around, and then for my familiarity with EC Comics. So if you have no more questions, can I ask who you guys are? And
I
do have one more.
Okay, the cartoon started very Saturday morning. I know they were trying to aim for a teenage audience, but then the stories got a little bit deeper, a little darker, because they dealt with drug addiction. They kind of dealt with addiction, drugs, and death. Was that
Death is a very dicey thing in the cartoons. You're really not allowed to suggest. What do you say?
This is the last one, and then it's going to
Oh,
move.
last question.
So was that intentional to like kind of start going a little bit more adult?
I think it was just our nature. I mean, there's some fairly good writers working on our shows, and it's tough to always write for lower level kids. You want to present entertainment that a child can enjoy, but that wouldn't insult the intelligence of an adult. So that's what we were always trying to do. What's the other part of the question?
Oh no, that was it. Just if that was intentional, you guys to kind of start going darker.
I give you Bob Goodman, I take Stan away.
Thank you.
Bob Goodman Raider.
Thank you all. Thank you. I wish I could have asked who you were.
So yeah, it was certainly different, but definitely a fun way to try to switch up the character. So I was pretty happy to get the opportunity to kind of be more serious, more dedicated.
And then just
I'm just constantly cast as being funny, wacky, as big as life as you can do. So to do something that was far more subtle, far more dark was new for me. And it was something I loved Batman the Animated Series, so I kind of knew a little.
So, these Batman villains.
There was no